Hey guys, Paul here from Meldrum Performance Coaching and the Complete Personal Trainer Podcast. So we had a little detour yesterday where I talked about communication essentials and how to ask better questions as a PT. Now we're going to be looking at anaerobic conditioning. So with anaerobic conditioning, this is where we start getting intervals, but we need to differentiate between the ATP PT system and the anaerobic system. So we're going to use the anaerobic lactic system and the anaerobic alactic system. So there's actually two systems here that we need to be aware of. So the anaerobic lactic system generates ATP for about a minute, breaking down blood sugar or glycogen. And this is called anaerobic glycolysis or glycogenolysis, depending on where the process starts, if it's with glucose or glycogen. We don't have to worry about that too much. So that's one process, and then pyruvate is formed. And one of the things that I want to just clarify now is lactate isn't one of the things that causes fatigue. It's actually a fuel source. It's reversible. It can get transformed back into pyruvate, which can be used as a fuel. So when you say the burns lactate acts as building up in the muscles, it's not actually the case. Anaerobic lactic is ATP-PC, or the creatine phosphate system, which is more explosive. So we're going to be focusing on anaerobic lactic system. So when we're training this one, this is the system where a lot of sports really start to get into. So when you're looking at something like, let's just say, soccer, for example, you're going to be moving at your anaerobic threshold, so you need to train anaerobic lactic system to be able to survive the sport and perform it at a high level. There is a limit to how high the system can be trained, of course, and that's obviously due to the fact that it works a certain way, where the aerobic system can be trained again and again and again. So with this, there's a couple of different methods that we can use. So we've got lactic power, lactic capacity, circuit training, lactic explosive repeat as our main type of things that we can do for training our clients who are training sports. So what you want to differentiate, there's a few things here. I don't want to get into where, because becomes quite complex, this type of programming for conditioning for sports. You need to look at, does the client need lactic power or lactic capacity initially? So lactic power is how much power they can produce through that system. It's not going to be as much power as a 100-meter sprint, for example. That's an adenosine triphosphate phosphate creatine thing. It's like a 20 to 40 second interval. So do they need to perform a higher amount of power with a bit more rest, or do they need to perform at a higher level for a longer interval of time? So if we're looking at something like how would I say, like maybe boxing, for example, you've got a 3-minute round that you need to go into. So lactic capacity is looking around that 2-minute mark is the highest that we can kind of train it. So having a high level of lactic capacity would be really, really good with a good amount of aerobic capacity behind it to be able to regenerate ATP and get faster recovery. If we're playing a sport like basketball, where you get on a fast break, you come back in defense, you get a break, and boom, you get another fast break again, that's lactic power. So slightly different needs. A good way to differentiate it is this length of an average play and what happens on that play. So for example, we're going to use basketball. We have a 24-second shot clock. So we know it's definitely not ATP PC. It could be lactic power that needs to be generated. I would probably look for most activities to do a little bit of both and just bias your volume towards the one that's more important for you. So, or for your client in that particular activity. So there's no right or wrong rule here. It's just that, as with everything, when you're doing conditioning, we need to be very specific with the tools that we use. So for lactic power, one of the methods we could do is we could do max intensity and speed for 20 to 40 seconds duration with 3 minutes worth of rest in between. The thing with the longer rest period is we need longer rest to be able to clear out any of the metabolic byproducts and to make everything easier for you to recover from, and for the person to put out a higher amount of power. So when you're looking at power, you need longer recovery periods in between. So good exercise for this, like sprints, explosive squat jumps, full body power exercises. So really explosive stuff because you're trying to generate power. And you'll do this for 20 to 40 seconds, followed by about 3 minutes of rest. And you make sure you get the heart rate down, because one of the things with conditioning is being able to teach the skill of reducing the heart rate. That's a really important skill to have on point. Now with lactic capacity, what you want to do is you're kind of buffering that build up of that burning sensation, and many different drills can work. Like track drills are really good, like 400 meters or 200 meters. Each rep goes from 90 to 120 seconds. 1 to 2 minute rest in between, 3 reps per exercise. So that is a fairly brutal way to train. So this won't make someone faster. It's certainly not going to improve their maximum speed, but what it will do is it will improve their ability to hold their higher intensity for a longer period of time. It's a very nasty way to do it. And our circuit training is a really simple one that you can do to help people build up their alactic capacity. You can, full body circuit training with some swings, some jump squats, have some fun with this one. Each exercise 20 to 30 seconds for power. For capacity, each exercise 30 to 60 seconds. So what you can do is you can put your strength training into a circuit format to actually help that client build either they want their lactic power or their lactic capacity. So we always think with weight training for general population clients is we're using it to build muscle, maintain strength, maintain muscle, build strength in any program for fat loss. When we're looking at athletic development and working with the athletic population, weight training is simply a tool. And it's a tool that can be used to multiple ends. So if we're going to use weight training, like if the person has a decent amount of muscle mass, doing circuit training, they'll probably maintain it. And for most of our sports, having excess levels of muscle mass aren't that good. Quite often, it's not how strong they are, it's about how much they can repeat the effort at a high degree of skill and recover. So if we're training someone in a skill-based sport like soccer, we don't have to stress too much about getting them super strong. If we're training someone in rugby league, which is a bit more of a strength sport, then we should get them a little bit stronger. And then finally is a lactic explosive repeat, which is be able to maintain repetitive explosiveness. It could be really good for basketball, for example, because getting a rebound, you have jump up, jump up, jump up. You could do jump squats, split squat jumps, swings, explosive push-ups or push presses. Basically, do 12 to 15 seconds work, rest 30 seconds, then you do 15, 20 seconds work, rest 20 seconds, so you build up. So you're doing like a high explosive exercise for a longer period of time, up to about 30, 40 seconds, 10-second rest. So that improves someone's ability to be explosive again and again. Will it be maximal explosive? No, but for most sports, you don't actually have the opportunity to do one maximal explosive rep and then stop unless you're doing Olympic weightlifting or powerlifting, even though it's not really explosive when you do powerlifting. So guys, that is how you train the anaerobic lactic system in sports. So only really 4 methods that you need to do for most situations. There are many, but if we're working with general population clients who are going into athleticism, we don't need to worry about that too much, okay? So start thinking now how you can be a little bit more creative with weight training drills and how you can use it to achieve other outcomes besides just muscle hypertrophy and muscle strength. Any questions, guys? Hit me up. Speak soon.